Okay, imagine this. Over $2 billion. Just hang in there. We're talking $2.2 billion in grants, plus another $60 million in contracts.
Huge numbers.
Right. And that's the big story we're diving into today. The federal government hitting pause on all that funding meant for Harvard University.
And it's crucial to get this straight away. This isn't some, standard budget adjustment.
No.
The reporting we're looking at from the Associated Press makes it pretty clear. This freeze, it's a direct result of Harvard basically saying no to certain demands from the Trump administration, demands about handling campus activism.
Okay. So there's a specific trigger here.
Yeah.
And it sounds like this isn't exactly a one-off situation.
Not at all. The AP article flags this as the 7th time the administration has done this kind of thing with elite colleges.
7th time. Wow.
And get this, 6 of those 7 are Ivy League schools.
6 out of 7. That does make you wonder, doesn't it? Is there a pattern here, a strategy?
Well, when you see something like that, it certainly suggests more than coincidence, right? It raises the question, are they deliberately targeting these highly influential institutions, trying to shape policy there?
So what exactly were these demands that Harvard refused? What led to this, financial showdown?
The AP article mentions a letter sent to Harvard, and the demands were pretty sweeping.
Like what?
We're talking about big government and leadership reforms at the university, changes to how they admit students, even an audit, basically, of different views on diversity on campus.
An audit of views. That sounds far-reaching.
It really touches on the fundamentals of how a university runs, doesn't it? Leadership, admissions, the campus climate itself, and stopping recognition for some student clubs was in there too.
And the stakes if Harvard didn't play ball.
Huge, right?
That's absolutely massive. The article suggests almost $9 billion. That's billion with a B in total. Grants and contracts were potentially on the line.
$9 billion. It's hard to even wrap your head around that number. What does that kind of money actually do at a place like Harvard? Well, think about it. That funding fuels an incredible amount of research, cutting-edge stuff. It supports academic programs, scholarships, keeps the lights on, essentially. Losing even a chunk of that, the impact would be profound.
Okay, so what was the administration's official reason for putting on this pressure? Why make these demands now?
The stated rationale, the public reason given, centered on allegations of anti-Semitism. The claim was that universities, including Harvard, weren't doing enough to stop anti-Semitism during protests against Israel's war in Gaza.
Right, that's been a major point of national discussion. Campus safety, anti-Semitism, how universities handle these really difficult situations.
Exactly. So that's the context they're framing it in. Concerns about protecting Jewish students and ensuring a safe learning environment.
But looking deeper into those demands you mentioned, it wasn't just about anti-Semitism, was it?
It seems not entirely, no. The AP article lists other things, too.
Such as?
Pushing for, and they used quotes here, merit-based admissions and hiring. Also, a ban on face masks on campus, and demanding Harvard stop recognizing or funding student groups linked to endorsing criminal activity, illegal violence, or harassment.
Merit-based in quotes. Interesting. And the mask ban, that feels like it taps into other political currents, too.
It certainly broadens the picture. When you look at the whole list, while anti-Semitism was clearly maybe the key trigger, the overall aims seem much wider, influencing admissions, hiring, student life, campus expression.
And the administration wasn't subtle about its view of Harvard's refusal. There was a federal anti-Semitism task force comment.
Yeah, quite pointed. They were quoted saying Harvard's defiance showed a troubling entitlement mindset, and that allowing learning to be disrupted and Jewish students harassed was unacceptable. Strong words.
That definitely signals the administration felt Harvard was, shirking its responsibilities given the federal funding it receives.
Yeah, that seems to be the implication. That receiving federal money comes with obligations to maintain order and combat anti-Semitism very actively, and maybe they felt Harvard was taking that funding for granted.
And President Trump himself weighed in.
He did, promised a tougher line on campus anti-Semitism going forward, and the article notes the administration had already started investigations at other colleges, and even moved to detain or deport some foreign students connected to pro-Palestinian protests.
So actual actions, not just threats. Investigations, deportations. That definitely feels like an escalation in tactics.
It signals a shift, yeah. A willingness to use different government powers to enforce their view on how campuses should operate.
Okay, so that's the administration side. Immense pressure, specific demands, serious consequences threatened. How did Harvard react? Did they buckle?
Quite the opposite, actually. The AP report is clear. Harvard President Alan Garber stood firm. He stated very clearly the university would not yield to the government's demands.
Really dug their heels in.
Completely. He released a statement emphasizing, institutional independence, said they wouldn't surrender that independence or give up their constitutional rights. That was the core message.
And he pushed back on the idea of government dictating university policy.
Very strongly. He argued that it's not the government's place to tell a private university what to teach, who to admit, who to hire, or even what subjects to research.
That hits right at the heart of academic freedom, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Garber was drawing a clear line. He argued that letting the government control those core academic functions would fundamentally change what a university is supposed to be, a place for independent thought.
Did Harvard address the anti-Semitism concerns at all in their response? Or just focus on independence?
No, they did address it. Garber stated that Harvard had already put significant reforms in place to tackle anti-Semitism.
Oh, okay. So their argument was partly, we're already working on this.
Exactly. It was sort of, we take this seriously, we've made changes, but these demands go way beyond anti-Semitism. Garber suggested many demands were really aimed at regulating the whole intellectual conditions at Harvard.
And Garber also raised a point about the wider impact, right? Beyond just Harvard itself.
Yes, a really crucial point. He warned about the risks of cutting funds to a major research university, especially in science and medicine.
Oh, so?
He basically warned it could harm public health, our well-being, even national economic security. He framed it as something that affects everyone, not just the university. Jeopardizing that kind of research has ripple effects.
So turning it into a matter of public interest, not just an internal dispute. Smart.
And legally, Harvard isn't just disagreeing on policy. They're arguing the freeze itself is unlawful.
Yes, that's a key part of their stance. They contend it violates their First Amendment rights, freedom of speech, presumably, and also that the government is overstepping its authority under Title VI.
Title VI, remind me.
That's the federal law prohibiting discrimination based on race, color, or national origin in programs receiving federal funds.
Got it. So they're mounting a legal challenge on constitutional and statutory grounds. This could end up in court for a while.
Seems likely. But it's worth noting, not every university faced with this has reacted like Harvard, correct?
That's right. The article mentions Columbia University actually did acquiesce to similar demands previously, under the threat of funding cuts.
That shows just how tough this position is for universities. The pressure must be immense when billions are on the line.
It really highlights the dilemma. Different institutions might calculate the risks and potential fallout differently.
And Harvard isn't the only one currently feeling this pressure from the administration.
No, the article lists others where funding has been paused. UPenn, Brown, Princeton, Cornell, and Northwestern.
Wow. Okay, so Penn, Brown, Princeton, Cornell, Northwestern.
Yeah.
That definitely reinforces the idea that this is a broader campaign, not just a one-off with Harvard.
Exactly. Seeing that list makes it look much more like a deliberate, wide-ranging policy targeting multiple top universities.
How is this playing out in the wider conversation about higher education? What are people saying?
Well, the article notes a perspective that the administration has sort of normalized this tactic, using federal money as a lever to push a political agenda on campus policy.
Normalize the extraordinary is how the article put it, I think.
Yes, exactly. Which, if you think about the traditional independence universities have had, is a pretty big shift. It raises serious questions about political interference.
And within the Harvard community itself, is there support for Garber's stance?
Seems like it. The article mentions Harvard alumni actually wrote to the university leadership.
Oh, what do they say?
They urged them to fight back, to legally contest any demands they saw as unlawful and threatening academic freedom. A strong backing there.
That must bolster the university's resolve.
Definitely. And one alumna, Anurima Pargava, was quoted framing it quite powerfully. She said Harvard was essentially standing up for the integrity and freedom of all of higher education, resisting what she called bullying and authoritarian whims.
Strong language. Positions it as a defense of core principles.
It really does. And it wasn't just alumni writing letters. There was also a protest.
Yes, over the weekend, apparently. The campus community and even some Cambridge residents came out against the government pressure.
So the concerns spread beyond the campus walls into the local community, too. Interesting.
And then there's the lawsuit. Not from Harvard directly, but from a faculty group.
Right. The American Association of University Professors, the AAUP, they've filed a suit challenging the funding cuts across the board, presumably covering the actions against Harvard and the others.
So multiple angles of pushback. What's the AAUP arguing in their lawsuit?
According to the article, they're making a couple of key arguments. First, procedure that the administration didn't follow the required steps under Title VI, like giving proper notice to the universities and Congress.
Okay, a procedural argument. What else?
They're also arguing about substance, that the demands aren't really about fixing legal noncompliance, but are actually an attempt to impose the administration's political views and punish speech they don't like.
So essentially saying it's viewpoint discrimination disguised as enforcement. That's a serious charge.
It is. It frames the administration's actions as potentially unconstitutional, going beyond their legal authority.
So, boiling it all down, we've got this real clash here, haven't we? A powerful government arm using its financial clout
Billions of dollars worth of clout.
to influence policy and, well, the whole atmosphere at a major university. And the university pushing back hard, citing independence and constitutional rights.
That's the absolute core of it. It's a fundamental conflict over control, academic freedom, and the proper role of federal funding in higher education.
And like we said, the stakes are just enormous, not just for Harvard, but potentially for research that impacts all of us, health, science, the economy.
Exactly. The ripple effects could be huge. This isn't just an academic squabble. It could affect research pipelines, educational opportunities, and sets a precedent for how government interacts with universities going forward.
It really leaves you thinking, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Considering, what universities are for fostering critical thought, research, debate. How should we view this kind of government leverage through funding? What does this mean for other schools, maybe ones without Harvard's resources? It's definitely something to chew on.